Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing at the edge of a vast open field. The horizon stretches endlessly, painted with colors that shift and shimmer, depending on how you tilt your gaze. Some days, that sky looks heavy with storm clouds, and on others it radiates with golden sunlight. Now here's the reality check. The sky hasn't changed. What changed is the lens through which you are seeing it, the filter of your thoughts, the story you tell yourself, the subtle yet powerful stream of beliefs that run beneath your awareness. All of this forms the horizon of your life. Your reality is not simply what happens to you. It is what you make of it in the quiet space of your mind. Your thoughts are not passive background noise. They are the architects, the designers, the hidden scriptwriters of the life you step into every single day. When you wake up and whisper to yourself, "I don't have what it takes," you are handing that line to your subconscious, and it will dutifully construct a stage where those words feel true. On the other hand, when you whisper, "I am capable, I am learning, I am growing," you set into motion a completely different play. And here's the astonishing part. You become the lead actor in whichever script you choose. This is the thesis that underpins your journey. Your life is a reflection of your thoughts. It is not wishful thinking. It is not shallow optimism. It is a truth echoed by both ancient wisdom and modern science. From the teachings of philosophers who insisted that the mind shapes destiny, to neuroscientists who prove that your brain rewires itself in response to repeated thought patterns, the evidence is clear. Your mind is not a mirror of reality. It is the projector. Whatever film it plays on the inside gets cast out onto the world you experience. Imagine your mindset as a pair of glasses you wear constantly. If the lenses are scratched, every scene looks distorted. A setback looks like failure. A challenge feels like punishment. An opportunity seems too risky to take. But if those lenses are clean, suddenly setbacks reveal hidden lessons. Challenges whisper about hidden strength, and opportunities feel like doors waiting to be opened. Your glasses do not change the world itself. They change the way you engage with it. That single shift in perspective alters everything. This is where you begin, learning to notice the lenses you have been wearing, and if necessary, replacing them with ones that reveal life's richness instead of its restrictions. Because here is the unshakable truth. You cannot become a new version of yourself while clinging to an old way of thinking. Pause for a moment and reflect. How often do you let your thoughts drift unchecked? Perhaps when you're driving, you hear that nagging inner voice mutter, "You always mess things up." Maybe as you prepare to take a step towards something bigger, you feel a thought like, "Who am I to deserve this?" Those are not harmless whispers. They are seeds, and each one has the potential to sprout into habits, decisions, and entire chapters of your life. Now consider the opposite. Think about the last time you surprised yourself with courage, the moment you walked into a room that intimidated you, or the day you completed something you once thought impossible. Remember how it felt to say, "I can do this." That thought was not just motivational fluff. It was the key that unlocked a door in your brain, releasing energy, sharpening focus, guiding your actions until you crossed the finish line. Science calls this the self-fulfilling prophecy. When you expect failure, you unconsciously make choices that drag you closer to failure. When you expect growth, you make choices that guide you toward growth. And here's the beautiful part. You can train yourself to expect growth. Think of your mind like a garden. Left unattended, weeds grow wild, doubt, fear, limiting beliefs. They spring up easily because they take no effort. But when you become a gardener of your thoughts, you decide what grows. You plant seeds of possibility. You water them daily with small, consistent affirmations. You pull out weeds before they choke your progress. Over time, your garden flourishes into something vibrant, nourishing, and strong. This is not about pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Life will bring difficulties. It will bring pain, loss, and unexpected detours. The difference is how you interpret those events. With a stagnant mindset, pain becomes permanent, loss becomes identity, detours become dead ends. With a renewed mindset, pain becomes teacher, loss becomes a chapter, detours become scenic routes to unexpected destinations. The event is the same. The meaning is yours to choose. You may be wondering, how does this actually translate into everyday life? Imagine a student facing an exam. If they tell themselves, "I'm not smart enough," their brain literally shuts down under stress. Creativity diminishes, recall weakens, confidence collapses. But if that same student says, "I can prepare, I can focus, I can grow with effort," their brain floods with dopamine and serotonin, chemicals that increase focus, memory, and motivation. The exam itself didn't change. The mindset changed the outcome. Or picture a business owner watching sales decline. One perspective says, "This is the end. I should give up." Another says, "This is feedback. I can adapt." The first perspective leads to paralysis. The second sparks innovation. Once again, the external reality is identical, but the inner lens creates radically different futures. This is the secret so often missed. You hold more control than you realize. You cannot dictate every event around you, but you can dictate the meaning you give them, and that meaning drives your life. When you learn to master your mindset, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become the author of your reality. So, how do you begin? The first step is awareness. Most people live on autopilot, letting old thought patterns drive them without question. You must step off that treadmill. Notice what stories you tell yourself daily. Ask, do these thoughts empower me, or do they shrink me? Are these beliefs guiding me toward the person I want to become, or chaining me to the person I used to be? Once you notice, you can challenge. When you catch yourself saying, "I'm not good enough," pause. Ask, is that a fact? Or is it just a habit of thinking? Where did I learn it? Do I have evidence that it's always true? You'll discover that most limiting beliefs crumble under inspection. They are illusions, not truths. Then you replace. Each time a thought tries to drag you backward, you swap it with one that pulls you forward. Not empty positivity, but grounded affirmations. Instead of, "I always fail," you say, "Every setback teaches me how to succeed." Instead of, "I don't deserve this," you say, "I am learning to receive with gratitude." These new scripts, repeated consistently, become new grooves in your brain. Science calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Every repetition strengthens the pathway, until what once felt forced becomes natural. At first, it may feel strange. Old habits resist change. But remember, you are not trying to erase decades of thought overnight. You are training a muscle. Each repetition makes it stronger. Each small victory rewires your mind, and as your mindset shifts, so does your experience of reality. Now, let's look deeper. Why does this matter so much? Because your mindset is not only about what you believe, It's about how you show up in the world. If you believe you can grow, you take risks, you learn, you persevere. If you believe you are stuck, you retreat, you settle, you shrink. The world responds not to your potential, but to the energy you project. When you change your mindset, you change the energy, and the world reflects it back. Consider some of history's most admired figures. They were not people who never faced failure. They were people who faced it with a lens of possibility. They saw obstacles not as walls, but as puzzles to solve. They reframed rejection as redirection. They treated doubt not as a stop sign, but as a signal to dig deeper. That's what separated them. It wasn't raw talent. It was mindset. And if they could cultivate it, so can you. Here's the invitation. Start seeing your life as clay in your hands. Each thought is a touch that shapes it. Each belief is a pressure that molds it. Each choice is a curve, a contour, a detail. Over time, the sculpture becomes your reality. Ask yourself, what masterpiece am I shaping with the thoughts I entertain daily? If you don't like the shape, you have the power to press again, to smooth again, to carve again. Nothing is set in stone until you decide it is. This is your call to become the sculptor rather than the sculpture, the painter rather than the canvas, the writer rather than the story told about you. Your thoughts are the tools. Your mindset is the palette. Your life is the canvas, and every moment is a chance to create something extraordinary. The journey has just begun, but already you sense it. This is not about shallow slogans. It is about reclaiming authorship of your existence. You are not here to merely survive the script written by someone else. You are here to master your mind, and in doing so, master your life. You are awake now to the truth that your thoughts carry weight, that they sculpt the outlines of your life as surely as wind carves valleys or rivers shape stone. But awakening to this truth is only the beginning. The next step is to learn how to observe your mind with precision, to step outside of your swirling emotions, your repetitive inner monologues, and look clearly at what is happening inside. This is the practice of self-awareness, and it is the cornerstone of every transformation you will ever create. Without it, you stumble in the dark. With it, you hold the flashlight that illuminates every corner of your inner world. Imagine you are sitting in a theater, watching a film play on a massive screen. The story is gripping, filled with tension, highs and lows. You are pulled into it, forgetting that you are an audience member. But suddenly, the lights come up and you realize you are not only watching the film, you are also the director, the producer, and sometimes even the writer. That moment of realization is self-awareness. It is the shift from being trapped in the storyline of your thoughts to stepping back and seeing those thoughts for what they are, just scripts that you can rewrite. Most people live on autopilot. They react without pausing. They repeat the same inner phrases day after day. They let emotions wash over them without ever asking where those emotions came from. One sharp comment from a colleague triggers anger, and instead of noticing the rising tide, they lash out or shut down. One memory of a past mistake drifts in, and instead of observing it calmly, they relive the shame as though it is happening all over again. This lack of self-awareness keeps people stuck in cycles they don't understand. You, however, are choosing differently. To develop self-awareness, you begin with the simplest and yet most profound practice: noticing. When a thought arises, "I'm not ready," This is too hard. They don't respect me. You do not need to chase it or argue with it immediately. You simply notice it. You observe its texture, like a cloud passing across the sky. You might even say quietly to yourself, "Ah, there's doubt again." That simple act of noticing breaks the spell. The thought is no longer the master. You are. Mindfulness, at its essence, is this gentle art of noticing without judgment. You bring your attention back to the present moment, back to the feel of your breath entering and leaving your lungs, back to the way your body sits in a chair or your feet press against the floor. As you return again and again to this present awareness, you train your mind to see its own activity. You stop being swept away by every wave, and instead, you learn to surf. But mindfulness is not the only path. Another powerful tool is journaling. When you write down your thoughts, you externalize them. You move them from the endless echo chamber of your head onto paper, where you can examine them clearly. A simple exercise. At the end of each day, jot down 3 thoughts that repeated themselves the most. Perhaps one was about your appearance, one about your competence, one about your future. Looking at them on the page, you can ask, do these thoughts support my growth, or do they undermine me? Are they rooted in fact, or are they echoes of old fears? Journaling becomes a mirror for the mind. It shows you patterns you might not notice in the rush of daily life. Maybe you see that every time you feel tired. You also think, I can't keep up. Or you notice that after certain conversations, your inner critic shouts louder. This kind of awareness is invaluable, because what you can see, you can shift. Self-awareness also means becoming familiar with your emotional triggers. Every person has certain buttons that, when pressed, unleash an outsized reaction. Maybe criticism makes you bristle. Maybe silence from someone you love makes you feel abandoned. These reactions often have roots in childhood experiences or past events that left an imprint. The key is not to blame yourself for them, but to recognize them. When you can say, I feel anger rising because I fear being dismissed, you create space between the trigger and the reaction. That space is freedom. And here's where the science supports the practice. When you become more self-aware, your brain activates regions in the prefrontal cortex that are responsible for emotional regulation and decision-making. In other words, by noticing your thoughts and feelings, you give yourself access to the very part of your brain that helps you respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. This is not abstract. It is biology working in your favor. Yet self-awareness is not only about recognizing the negative. It is also about knowing your strengths, your joys, your sources of energy. Ask yourself, when do I feel most alive? What activities make me lose track of time? Which interactions leave me energized instead of drained? These are clues to your deepest values and talents. When you know them, you can align your life more closely with what fuels you rather than what depletes you. Let's make this practical. Tomorrow morning, before you dive into the demands of the day, take 5 minutes to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what is the dominant thought in my mind right now? Write it down. Later, when you face a challenge, pause and notice. What am I telling myself about this? Write that down too. At night, review your notes. Over time, you will begin to see the architecture of your inner dialogue. With that map in hand, you can start to renovate. Think of self-awareness as tuning an instrument. At first, you may hear only noise, dissonant strings pulling in different directions. But as you listen closely and adjust carefully, the tones begin to align. Eventually, the instrument produces harmony. That instrument is your mind. When you tune it through awareness, you produce a life that resonates more beautifully. Another layer of self-awareness is learning to separate who you are from what you feel. You are not your anger. You are the one noticing anger. You are not your fear. You are the one witnessing fear. This subtle shift in identification is transformative. Instead of being consumed by emotions, you begin to understand them as signals, valuable information about your needs and desires. Anger might be telling you that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness might be pointing to something you value that is missing. Fear might be highlighting the edge of your comfort zone. When you listen to these signals with curiosity instead of judgment, you gain insight rather than being overwhelmed. Self-awareness is also relational. It shows up not only in your private thoughts, but in the way you interact with others. For instance, do you notice how your tone shifts when you feel defensive? Do you realize how your body language changes when you feel uncertain? Becoming aware of these subtle cues allows you to choose differently. You can soften your tone, open your posture, and communicate with clarity rather than defaulting to old habits. And here lies a hidden gift. When you become more self-aware, your relationships improve. People feel safer around someone who can own their emotions without projecting them. Trust deepens when you can say, "I realize I reacted strongly just now. Let me pause and reset." This kind of honesty, born from awareness, creates connection instead of conflict. Of course, cultivating self-awareness is not always comfortable. Sometimes you will uncover parts of yourself that you would rather ignore. Old insecurities, unprocessed grief, stubborn patterns of avoidance. But facing these truths is not a punishment. It is liberation. What remains hidden controls you. What is brought into the light can be healed, reshaped, transformed. Remember, too, that awareness grows gradually, just as you would not expect to master a new language overnight. Do not expect to master self-awareness instantly. Celebrate small moments, catching yourself in mid-complaint and shifting your tone, noticing a negative thought before it spirals, recognizing a trigger without reacting. These small wins accumulate, building your strength like drops of water filling a reservoir. Here is a simple exercise to begin deepening awareness. Set an hourly reminder on your phone that simply says, "Notice." Each time it buzzes, pause and ask, "What am I thinking right now? How am I feeling? What is my body doing?" These micro check-ins pull you out of autopilot and remind you that you have a choice. Over days and weeks, these small pauses create a profound shift in your consciousness. Ultimately, self-awareness is a practice of honesty. It is looking at yourself without filters, without excuses, without the urge to paint over the cracks. But honesty is not harshness. It is not beating yourself up. It is compassionate clarity. You look at your mind the way a gardener looks at a plant, seeing where it thrives, noticing where it needs pruning, tending to it with patience and care. And as your self-awareness deepens, you begin to experience a subtle but powerful change. You stop feeling like life is something that just happens to you. You realize you are participating, co-creating, shaping. You become less reactive, more intentional, more aligned with your deepest values. You begin to walk through life not as a sleepwalker, but as someone wide awake. This is the power of awakening self-awareness. It is the flashlight in the darkness, the mirror that reveals truth, the compass that keeps you aligned. With it, you step onto the path of transformation, not blindly, but with eyes open, heart open, ready to engage fully with the journey ahead. You are beginning to sense how much clarity self-awareness brings. It is like finding the switch that lights up a dim room. You can finally see the furniture, the corners, the shapes that were always there, but hidden. And yet noticing your inner world is not enough on its own. Awareness must be followed by action. Now comes the work of looking at the hidden programming that has been running quietly in the background of your mind, often since childhood. These programs are your beliefs, and they are more powerful than most people ever realize. Beliefs act like an operating system, just as your phone or computer runs on a system that determines what it can do. Your life runs on the belief system you carry. If your system is outdated, filled with limiting thoughts like, "I'm unlucky," "I'll never change," or "only certain people succeed," then everything you attempt will be slowed down, blocked, or distorted. But when your system is updated with beliefs like, "I can learn," "I am worthy of growth," and "every setback teaches me," you gain speed, clarity, and strength. You are not frozen in the past. You are empowered in the present. Think about the earliest stories you were told. Maybe someone said, "You're just not athletic," or "You're the quiet one in the family." Perhaps you were praised only when you performed perfectly, so you formed the belief that your worth depends on flawless results. Or maybe you were criticized harshly, leading you to believe that trying new things is dangerous. These messages sink deep into the subconscious. Over time, you forget where they came from, but you still live by them. They become invisible walls you bump into again and again without realizing why. The first step in rewriting these hidden beliefs is to identify them. That sounds simple, but beliefs often disguise themselves as facts. You don't question them because they feel true. For example, you might say, "I'm terrible at speaking in public," but is that an objective truth? Or is it a belief formed after one embarrassing moment? Another example, "I'm just unlucky in relationships." Is that destiny? Or is it a belief shaped by past heartbreaks? When you stop and ask, where did this belief come from? Is it absolutely true? You open the door to change. Here's a practical exercise. Take out your journal and write down 3 statements you often repeat to yourself, especially during challenges. Then interrogate each one. Ask, do I have unquestionable evidence this is true? Is it helping me grow? Or is it holding me back? Where might I have learned it? Simply shining this light exposes the cracks. You may realize that a belief you've carried for decades is nothing more than an outdated assumption handed to you by someone else. Once you have identified limiting beliefs, the next step is to challenge them. This doesn't mean arguing endlessly with your inner critic. It means gently but firmly testing the belief. If you tell yourself, "I can't change," look for moments when you actually did, when you learned a skill, adapted to a new environment, or overcame an obstacle. If the belief says, "I always fail," find the times you succeeded, no matter how small. Evidence is your ally. The more you gather, the weaker the old belief becomes. But here is the most important part. Beliefs cannot simply be destroyed. They must be replaced. Imagine pulling out an old weed in your garden. If you leave the soil bare, another weed will grow. But if you plant a healthy seed in its place, you create beauty and nourishment. In the same way, You must replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones. Instead of, "I'm terrible at speaking," you might say, "I am developing my voice and growing more confident each time I try." Instead of, "I'm unlucky in relationships," you might affirm, "I am learning how to create healthy connections, and I deserve love." Affirmations are a powerful way to install new beliefs. When repeated consistently, they carve new pathways in your brain. At first, they may feel awkward or untrue, but persistence is the key. The brain does not distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically real. It responds to repetition. That is why athletes visualize their performances before stepping onto the field, why performers rehearse mentally before walking on stage. They are programming their minds for success. You can do the same. Visualization takes this practice further. When you close your eyes and imagine yourself succeeding, your brain fires in the same regions it would if you were actually performing the task. Picture yourself walking confidently into a meeting, delivering your words with clarity. Imagine yourself facing a challenge and smiling because you know you will learn from it. Feel the sensations, the emotions, the satisfaction of success. This mental rehearsal trains your subconscious to believe in new possibilities, making you more likely to act on them. Modern neuroscience calls this process neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Every thought you repeat strengthens a neural connection. Think of it like carving grooves into a path. The more you walk a trail, the deeper it becomes, until eventually, it is the natural route you follow. Limiting beliefs are deep grooves worn down by years of repetition, but you can begin carving new ones. Each time you practice a new belief, you dig a fresh trail. Over time, it becomes the easier path to walk, and the old one begins to fade. This is not magical thinking. It is science meeting intentional practice. Studies show that people who use affirmations and visualization regularly are more resilient, more confident, and more persistent in the face of setbacks. Why? Because their minds are primed to believe in growth, and belief fuels behavior. When you believe you can succeed, you take more action. When you take more action, you create more results. When you see more results, your belief strengthens further. This cycle becomes a self-reinforcing spiral of growth. Now, let's go even deeper. Beliefs don't just shape how you see yourself. They shape how you interpret the entire world. If you believe life is unfair, you will notice every injustice and ignore every blessing. If you believe opportunities are scarce, you will miss the chances that appear right in front of you. If you believe people are untrustworthy, you will interpret neutral actions as betrayals. In this way, beliefs become lenses, not only for your self-image, but for your reality itself. Reprogramming them doesn't just change how you feel, it changes what you notice, what you attract, and how you respond. A story may help here. Picture someone who once believed, "I'm terrible at learning languages." They carried this belief since failing a test in school. Years later, they decide to travel, but fear holds them back. Finally, they challenge the belief by enrolling in a beginner class. They remind themselves daily, "I can learn new skills." They visualize conversations in a new language. At first, it's awkward, but progress comes. Soon, they can order food abroad, greet new friends, and navigate confidently. The original belief crumbles, replaced by evidence and new conviction. What changed? Not their potential. It was always there. What changed was their programming. You have stories like this waiting to unfold. Maybe it is the belief that you cannot change careers, or that you cannot forgive yourself, or that you cannot pursue your passion. These are not facts. They are codes in your operating system. You hold the power to rewrite them. Practical steps. 1. Identify one belief that feels heavy. 2. Challenge it with evidence. Write down times it has been untrue. 3. Replace it with a new empowering statement. 4. Repeat it daily, out loud, in writing, in your mind. 5. Visualize yourself living with this new belief fully integrated. Commit to this process for 30 days. You will be amazed at the shift. And remember, this is not about perfection. Old beliefs may still whisper sometimes, but you now have tools to answer back. You can say, "Thank you, old story, but I'm writing a new one." That choice, repeated again and again, is how transformation happens. When you reprogram your beliefs, you give yourself permission to become someone new. You shed the scripts handed to you by others and step into authorship of your own life. You stop letting outdated codes dictate your choices and instead install beliefs that align with your highest vision. This is freedom. The freedom to believe in possibility, to trust your growth, to see yourself as capable, worthy, and ever evolving. You are learning that your beliefs are the bedrock of your reality. But now, it is time to explore something even more dynamic: the science of positive thinking. For centuries, people dismissed optimism as little more than a comforting illusion, a way to cover life's hardships with a coat of sugar. Yet modern research reveals something deeper. Positive thinking is not about ignoring pain or pretending challenges do not exist. It is about training your brain, harnessing your body's chemistry, and shaping your environment in a way that fuels resilience, focus, and achievement. Picture two people standing at the base of a mountain. One says, "This climb will break me." The other says, "This climb will strengthen me." They face the same slope, the same rocks, the same steepness. But the person who frames the climb positively literally experiences it differently. Their body releases chemicals that give them energy and sharpened focus. Their mind looks for solutions instead of obstacles. The climb is not less demanding, but it becomes less defeating. The power lies in how the brain responds to the thoughts it believes. Neuroscience shows us that every thought sends signals across the neural pathways of your brain. When you focus on something negative, you activate your brain's stress circuits. Cortisol floods your system, your heart rate rises, your muscles tense, your creativity narrows. It is as though you put blinders on your potential. But when you focus on a positive frame, what is possible, what you are grateful for, what you can learn, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin. These feel-good neurotransmitters don't just make you happy. They expand your capacity to think, to solve problems, and to persist under pressure. Think of positivity as mental weightlifting. Each time you redirect your mind toward possibility, you strengthen the muscles of resilience. Just as a runner builds endurance mile by mile, you build optimism thought by thought. Over time, your default response to stress shifts. Where once you saw defeat, you begin to see opportunity. Where once you froze, you begin to act. This is not empty theory. Consider gratitude. Researchers have found that people who keep a daily gratitude practice show increased activity in regions of the brain linked to happiness and connection. They also sleep better, handle stress more effectively, and even show stronger immune responses. A simple act, Writing down 3 things you appreciate each day literally changes your biology. It conditions your brain to scan for what is working instead of what is broken. Reframing is another tool. Imagine you fail an exam, lose a job, or face rejection. The raw fact is painful, but your interpretation makes all the difference. A reactive mindset says, "I failed, therefore I am a failure." A positive mindset says, "I learned what doesn't work, and that knowledge brings me closer to what does." The circumstance is the same. The meaning transforms. That meaning shifts your emotions, your actions, and ultimately, your results. Athletes use this principle constantly. Before stepping onto the field, they visualize success. They see themselves landing the perfect jump, sinking the winning shot, running the final stretch with energy. Their bodies respond as though the event is already happening. Muscles prime, nerves calm, focus sharpens. They are not deluding themselves. They are programming their minds to optimize performance. You can apply the same strategy to any area of life. Visualize yourself walking into a meeting with confidence, having a calm conversation with a loved one, or completing a project with excellence. The brain rehearses the event, and when the real moment arrives, you are prepared. But let's address the misconception. Positive thinking is not about denying reality. If you are facing illness, financial strain, or heartbreak, plastering on a smile does not erase the struggle. What it does is equip you to navigate it with more strength. It is the difference between drowning in despair and swimming with determination. Optimism says, "This is hard, but I have what it takes to grow through it." That mindset does not remove difficulty, but it dramatically changes your capacity to overcome it. Resilience is the natural result. People who cultivate positivity bounce back faster from setbacks. They adapt to new circumstances with less resistance. They are less likely to collapse under stress because they see stress as a challenge rather than a curse. This is why 2 people can endure the same hardship, and one emerges broken while the other emerges stronger. The difference lies in the lens of the mind. Now, how do you build this lens? Begin with awareness of your self-talk. Pay attention to the voice inside when challenges arise. Does it default to criticism, fear, and hopelessness? If so, pause and ask, what else could be true here? Replace, "I can't handle this" with, "I am learning to handle this." Replace, "Everything is falling apart" with, "I am finding new ways forward." Small shifts in language create seismic shifts in energy. Practice kindness toward yourself. Positive thinking thrives not on harsh discipline, but on compassion. When you stumble, instead of saying, "I'm so stupid," try, "I'm still learning." That change alone transforms shame into motivation. Imagine speaking to yourself as you would to a dear friend. You would not condemn them. You would encourage them. You deserve the same. Surround yourself with positive inputs. What you read, listen to, and watch imprints itself on your subconscious. If your environment is filled with cynicism and negativity, your thoughts will echo that. But if you fill your days with uplifting stories, inspiring conversations, and educational content, your brain has more material for optimism. Positivity is contagious. Expose yourself to it intentionally. Acts of kindness also amplify positivity. Studies show that when you do something kind for another person, your brain releases oxytocin, the hormone linked to bonding and joy. This not only uplifts the recipient, but elevates your own sense of meaning. Even small gestures, holding a door, offering a smile, sending an encouraging message, create ripples that reinforce a positive outlook. Let's ground this with a metaphor. Imagine your mind as a radio. Negative thinking tunes to static-filled stations, fear, doubt, scarcity. Positive thinking tunes to clear frequencies, possibility, growth, abundance. The external world may send signals of both, but you choose the dial. You decide which station to amplify. The more you practice tuning into positivity, the easier it becomes to stay there, even when static tries to break through. Remember, this is a practice, not perfection. You will not eliminate negative thoughts completely. That is not the goal. The goal is to recognize them quickly, reframe them effectively, and shift your focus deliberately. Every time you do, you strengthen the neural pathways that make positivity more natural. Think about your own life right now. Where could positivity change your experience? Perhaps at work, where a stressful project feels overwhelming. Imagine reframing it as a chance to demonstrate your growth. Perhaps in relationships, where misunderstandings cause tension. Imagine viewing them as opportunities to practice deeper empathy. Or in your personal journey, where self-doubt lingers. Imagine affirming daily, "I am growing stronger each step of the way." These are not fantasies. They are tools to rewire your mind and, therefore, your reality. By embracing the science of positive thinking, you align with a powerful truth. Your brain is not fixed, and your perspective is not permanent. You can shape your thoughts, and your thoughts shape your life. It is a cycle, one you are now equipped to direct. Positivity is not naive. It is strategic. It is not blind. It is visionary. It equips you to see clearly, act boldly, and live resiliently. With this mindset, challenges become stepping stones, gratitude becomes fuel, and your future opens like a horizon filled with possibility. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You are empowered by the way you choose to meet them. You have seen how positive thinking rewires your brain and expands your possibilities. But to truly harness that power, you need something deeper: emotional resilience. This is the quality that keeps you standing when storms blow through your life. It is not about pretending the storm doesn't hurt. It is about building the strength to bend without breaking, to learn instead of collapsing, and to rise even higher after being knocked down. Think of resilience as the muscle of your inner world. The more you train it, the more prepared you are to face whatever comes. Life, as you already know, is unpredictable. Plans fall apart. People disappoint you. Unexpected events shake your confidence. Some of these moments cut deeply, leaving you breathless. Without resilience, you feel consumed by the weight of it all. With resilience, you discover that pain can be fuel, that setbacks can be stepping stones, and that nothing, absolutely nothing, has the power to permanently define you unless you allow it. Imagine a tree standing in a field. When strong winds blow, a rigid tree with shallow roots snaps. But a tree with deep roots and flexible branches bends gracefully, then returns upright when the storm passes. Emotional resilience is your roots and your flexibility. It allows you to bend, not break. The first step in building resilience is reframing your relationship with challenges. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you learn to ask, "What can this teach me?" This single shift transforms suffering into a classroom. Adversity stops being punishment and becomes preparation. Failures stop being the end of the road and become feedback, guiding you toward new paths. This does not mean you deny the reality of pain. Resilient people cry. They grieve. They feel anger and fear. What sets them apart is their ability to process those emotions without being consumed by them. They acknowledge the storm, but they also remind themselves, I have weathered storms before, and I can do it again. This belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because you believe you can endure. You endure. One of the most powerful tools for resilience is self-compassion. Too often, you are your own harshest critic. When something goes wrong, you may pile on judgment. I'm weak. I'm a failure. I should have done better. But this only deepens the wound. Self-compassion, on the other hand, is like applying balm to a cut. It soothes instead of aggravates. When you tell yourself, this is difficult, but I'm human, and I'm learning, you create space for healing. Research shows that people who practice self-compassion recover more quickly from setbacks because they do not waste energy battling themselves. They save their energy for growth. Another cornerstone of resilience is emotional regulation, the ability to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. When fear rises, resilience whispers, breathe first, act second. When anger flares, resilience asks, what response serves me best right now? This regulation is like a thermostat. It doesn't deny the heat or the cold. It simply keeps the environment balanced. Practices like mindfulness meditation, deep breathing, and even pausing for a walk in nature strengthen your regulation system, giving you tools to calm your nervous system and regain perspective. Support networks also play a vital role. No one builds resilience in isolation. Even the strongest individuals rely on connection. Think of resilience not just as an individual trait, but as a collective resource. When you surround yourself with people who believe in you, who remind you of your strengths when you forget, their support becomes part of your resilience. Having someone to lean on in times of struggle doesn't make you weaker, it makes you stronger. It proves that resilience is not about facing storms alone, but about allowing others to hold an umbrella with you when the rain is too heavy. A sense of purpose also fuels resilience. When you know what matters most to you, challenges lose some of their power. If your purpose is to be a loving parent, obstacles at work feel less overwhelming because you know your core identity extends beyond them. If your purpose is to grow and contribute, setbacks become opportunities to practice perseverance. Purpose acts like a compass. Even when the road twists and turns, it keeps you oriented toward your North Star. Resilience also thrives on gratitude. At first, it may seem odd to speak of gratitude in times of difficulty, yet gratitude shifts your focus from what is broken to what remains whole. Even in loss, you may find gratitude for the love you experienced. Even in failure, gratitude for the lessons learned. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it keeps pain from swallowing you whole. It reminds you that even in the darkest night, stars still shine. Let's bring this down to daily practice. When something goes wrong, instead of immediately spiraling, pause and ask, what is still within my control? What strength can I draw on right now? What support can I reach for? By shifting your focus to action, you prevent yourself from drowning in helplessness. Each small action, making a phone call, adjusting a plan, choosing rest, becomes proof that you are not powerless. Another practice is to reframe your inner dialogue. Instead of saying, "This always happens to me," say, "This is happening, and I have the capacity to learn from it." Instead of, "I can't handle this," say, "I'm handling this one step at a time." These subtle changes in language shift your brain from despair into possibility. Don't underestimate the power of celebrating progress. Resilience grows when you recognize how far you've come. Maybe you didn't solve everything, but you took a step. Maybe you still feel pain, but you got out of bed today. Each acknowledgement builds confidence. Over time, you realize that resilience isn't about avoiding breakdowns. It's about bouncing back after them. It's about saying, yes, I stumbled, but here I am, walking again. Think of resilience as your personal toolkit. Inside it are practices like mindfulness, self-compassion, gratitude, and connection. Each time life tests you, you open the kit and use what you need. The more you practice, the more tools you add. Soon, storms that once felt unbearable become navigable. You no longer fear them, because you know you are equipped. Resilience is not about being unshakable. It is about being unbreakable in the long run. It is about adapting, adjusting, and continuing. Like a river flowing around rocks, you do not stop. You find new paths forward. Each setback becomes part of your strength, each difficulty part of your wisdom. So when life throws you into the fire, remember this: you are not meant to emerge unburned. You are meant to emerge forged, stronger, wiser, more compassionate. Resilience is the alchemy that turns trials into triumphs, and it is within you, waiting to be trained, strengthened, and celebrated. Fear and self-doubt, two shadows that follow almost every step you take. They whisper at the edges of your mind, convincing you that you are not ready, not good enough, not capable. Sometimes they are loud and paralyzing. Other times, they are subtle, creeping into your choices and limiting your vision of what is possible. Left unchecked, they become invisible chains, binding you to a smaller version of life than you deserve. But once you learn how to face them, name them, and loosen their grip, you discover that fear and self-doubt are not immovable walls. They are illusions, thin veils that dissolve the moment you walk through them. Think about where fear comes from. It is, at its root, a protective mechanism. Long ago, fear kept our ancestors alive. It warned them of predators, of cliffs, of fire. Today, those same systems activate when you step into a meeting, take on a new project, or express yourself in front of others. Your heart races, your stomach knots, your thoughts spiral. The body still acts as if the danger were physical, even though most modern fears are not about survival. They are about uncertainty, rejection, or failure. Understanding this is the first step. Fear is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that your brain is trying to protect you. Self-doubt often grows in the soil of past experiences. A teacher's harsh comment, a rejection letter, a broken promise. All of these moments plant seeds that can sprout into beliefs like, I can't do this, or I don't belong here. Over time, those seeds grow into vines that wrap around your potential, squeezing it until you hesitate before every step. But remember, vines can be cut, and new gardens can be planted. The first practice in breaking free is acknowledgement. Do not try to bury fear under forced positivity or silence self-doubt with denial. When you suppress these feelings, they grow stronger underground. Instead, turn toward them with honesty. Say to yourself, I feel afraid right now, or I notice I am doubting myself. Naming the emotion brings it into the light. In the light, it loses much of its power. From there, question the story behind the feeling. If you hear the thought, I'm going to fail, ask, is that a fact, or is it a prediction? If the thought says, I'm not enough, ask, according to whom? Where did this belief start? Most of the time, you will find that fear and self-doubt are not based on truth. They are based on outdated experiences or imagined scenarios. Once you see them clearly, you realize you are not chained by reality. You are chained by assumption. Then comes action. Fear feeds on hesitation. The longer you wait, the larger it grows. But when you take even the smallest step, you shrink fear down to size. Think of the times you delayed making a phone call, giving a speech, or sharing your idea. The anticipation was worse than the actual event. Action slices through fear's illusion. Each time you move forward, your brain learns a new lesson. I can handle this. That lesson compounds, building courage with every repetition. Visualization is another tool. If fear paints pictures of disaster, you can paint new ones of possibility. Close your eyes and imagine yourself succeeding. See the details, feel the emotions, hear the sounds of achievement. The brain, when vividly engaged, cannot distinguish strongly between imagination and reality. By rehearsing success in your mind, you prepare your body and emotions for the real thing. This is not wishful thinking. It is strategic mental training. Self-compassion is critical here as well. Many people think the way to overcome self-doubt is to push harder, to berate themselves into action. But judgment only deepens the wound. Instead, imagine speaking to yourself the way you would to a child learning to walk. You would not yell. You're pathetic for falling. You would smile, encourage, and celebrate each attempt. Treat yourself the same way. When doubt arises, whisper back, "It's okay to feel this. I am learning. I am growing. I am stronger than I realize." Reframing failure is perhaps the most liberating practice of all. Most fear is rooted in the idea that failing means the end, proof that you are not capable. But what if failure were simply feedback? Every great innovator, artist, athlete, and leader has failed, often more times than they have succeeded. The difference is that they viewed failure as information. This path didn't work, but it taught me something. Once you adopt this mindset, fear loses its sharpest weapon. Failure is no longer evidence against you. It is evidence that you are trying, learning, and evolving. The environment around you influences fear and doubt as well. If you surround yourself with voices that constantly predict doom or highlight your weaknesses, those shadows grow louder. But if you spend time with people who see your potential, who remind you of your progress, their belief fuels your own. Seek encouragement, not because you are fragile, but because support amplifies courage. Even the strongest climbers rely on ropes, and even the bravest hearts draw strength from connection. Mindfulness practices help too. Fear often drags you into imagined futures. What if this goes wrong? What if they laugh? What if I fall? Mindfulness pulls you back into the present moment, where the fear has less room to grow. When you breathe deeply, notice the ground beneath you and focus on the step right in front of you. You reclaim control from fear's endless what-ifs. You realize the only thing you must handle right now is this single moment, and this you can do. One more practical tool. Create affirmations that directly counter self-doubt. If your doubt says, "I'm not good enough," your affirmation can be, "I am capable and worthy." If it says, "I'll never succeed," affirm, "I am growing every day, and success is unfolding." Repeat these words daily. Write them where you can see them. Let them become your new internal soundtrack. Over time, these affirmations reprogram your subconscious, replacing old doubts with new convictions. It is important to remember that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to move forward in spite of fear. Every person you admire, every achievement that inspires you, was created not by someone who felt no fear, but by someone who refused to let fear make their choices. You can do the same. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a bridge. Fear tells you the bridge will collapse. Doubt whispers that you don't deserve to cross. But when you take the first step, you hear the wood hold firm beneath your feet. You take another step, and another. Soon, you are halfway across. Looking back in amazement, the bridge was strong all along. You simply had to trust yourself enough to walk it. So let fear and doubt be your guides, not your masters. Let them signal where your greatest opportunities for growth lie. When they appear, smile and say, "Thank you for showing me where I need to grow." Then take the step anyway. Each time you do, you loosen their chains and reclaim your freedom. Because the truth is this: you are far stronger than your fears suggest. You are far more capable than your doubts admit. And once you live from that truth, the life that once felt out of reach begins to unfold before you. You have already walked through fear and doubt, peeling away their illusions. Now you are ready to expand into a new territory, an abundance mindset. This is the shift from believing that life is a small pie, where everyone competes for the same limited slices, to realizing that there is more than enough for everyone. Abundance is not just about money. It is about love, opportunities, creativity, energy, and joy. It is the understanding that the world is not running out of goodness. In fact, the more you learn to see abundance, the more you experience it. Scarcity thinking is sneaky. It whispers that if someone else succeeds, it means less success for you. It tells you that opportunities are rare, that you must cling tightly to what you have, that there's never enough to go around. This mindset creates tension, jealousy, and fear. You begin to hoard your energy, resist change, and compare yourself endlessly to others. Scarcity locks you into survival mode. But when you shift into abundance, everything opens. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You share more freely because you trust that giving does not leave you empty. It creates space for more. You celebrate the success of others because you know their growth does not diminish yours. This shift is not about ignoring challenges. It is about changing the lens through which you view them. The foundation of abundance is gratitude. When you practice noticing what you already have, you rewire your brain to see sufficiency rather than lack. A simple daily ritual of writing down 3 things you appreciate can transform your perspective. One person might see a morning cup of coffee as ordinary. Another sees it as abundance, a warm drink, a quiet moment, an energizing start. The circumstances are the same, but the experience is entirely different. Gratitude is the seed that grows into abundance. Another practice is generosity. When you operate from scarcity, you grip tightly, afraid to let go of time, energy, or resources. But when you give, whether it's your attention, kindness, or support, you create ripples that often return to you multiplied. Think about the times someone gave you encouragement or opened a door of opportunity. Their generosity planted a seed in you that continues to grow. You can be that person for others. And paradoxically, the more you give, the more you experience yourself as overflowing. Abundance also requires releasing comparison. It is easy to measure your life against someone else's highlight reel, to believe you are behind or unworthy. But comparison blinds you to your unique path. Abundance says, their success is proof of what's possible for me too. It invites you to turn your energy inward, focusing on your own growth instead of competing with another person's journey. Think of life as a vast ocean. Scarcity says, there are only a few fish, and I must fight to catch one. Abundance says, the ocean is teeming with life. There is room for all of us to thrive. When you view life as an ocean of possibilities, you stop clutching at crumbs and start exploring horizons. Your language also matters. The words you use shape your mindset. Scarcity language sounds like, I can't afford this. There's never enough time. I'll never get another chance. Abundance language reframes, I'm choosing where to direct my resources. There's always enough time for what matters most. New opportunities are always unfolding. These small changes in language retrain your brain to expect sufficiency instead of lack. Visualization is another tool for cultivating abundance. Picture yourself living in alignment with plenty. Imagine waking up feeling energized, stepping into work with purpose, sharing moments of laughter with loved ones, feeling creative and resourceful. Don't just see material abundance. See emotional, relational, and spiritual abundance. The more vividly you visualize this life, the more your subconscious begins to act in alignment with it. Relationships flourish under an abundance mindset. When you believe there is enough love, attention, and connection to go around, you become more open and supportive. You listen more deeply, encourage more freely, and release the fear of being overlooked. This openness attracts deeper bonds. People feel safe with you because they sense you are not competing, but collaborating, not hoarding, but sharing. Abundance also changes how you view challenges. Instead of thinking, this problem will drain me, you ask, what resources, inner or outer, can I draw upon? Scarcity frames challenges as threats. Abundance frames them as invitations. This does not mean you minimize difficulty. It means you believe you can grow through it. A helpful practice is to keep what some call an abundance journal. Each day, note moments when life surprised you with more than you expected. A friend's kindness, a new opportunity, a flash of inspiration. Over time, these entries remind you that abundance is not a distant dream. It shows up every day if you are willing to notice it. Think about nature. Trees produce countless seeds. Not every seed grows, but nature keeps producing. Rivers flow endlessly, not fearing they will run dry. The sun rises every day, offering its light without withholding. Nature embodies abundance. And because you are part of nature, abundance is your natural state too. Scarcity is learned. Abundance is remembered. Of course, cultivating this mindset takes patience. Scarcity beliefs may be deeply ingrained from family stories, societal pressure, or past struggles. But each time you practice gratitude, generosity, and positive language, you loosen scarcity's grip. Each small choice plants new seeds of sufficiency. Over time, you look back and realize that your world feels more expansive, more connected, and more fulfilling. So remind yourself, abundance is not something you wait for. It is something you choose to see and create. The more you recognize it, the more it multiplies. Life is not a zero-sum game. There is enough love, joy, opportunity, and possibility for you and for everyone around you. When you live from this truth, you stop grasping, start giving, and discover that the world is far richer than you ever imagined. You have begun to see the world through the lens of abundance, recognizing that there is more than enough opportunity, love, and growth for you. Now comes the practice that anchors those insights into tangible progress. Discipline. While abundance expands your vision, discipline makes that vision real. It is the bridge between your intentions and your outcomes, between what you dream and what you actually achieve. Motivation might inspire you to start something, but motivation is like a spark. It burns bright and then fades. Discipline is the steady flame that keeps burning long after the spark has gone out. It is what carries you through the days when excitement is absent, when resistance is high, when distractions scream for your attention. Without discipline, even the best intentions remain unrealized. With discipline, almost any goal becomes reachable. Think of discipline not as punishment, but as self-respect. When you honor your commitments to yourself, you build trust with yourself. Each time you follow through, you prove that your word matters. Over time, that inner trust becomes unshakable confidence. Discipline, then, is not about deprivation. It is about freedom. The freedom to live aligned with your values and aspirations, instead of being at the mercy of impulse. The first step in cultivating discipline is clarity. You cannot be disciplined about something vague. I want to be healthier is too abstract. But I will exercise for 30 minutes every day gives your mind and body a clear target. Define what matters most to you. Break it into specific actions, and then commit. Each small step becomes a building block, and those blocks eventually form a foundation strong enough to carry your dreams. Structure is another ally. Successful people do not rely on willpower alone. They design their environment to support discipline. If you want to focus on writing, clear your workspace of distractions. If you want to eat healthier, stock your kitchen with nourishing foods. Structure removes unnecessary choices, freeing your energy to focus on what truly matters. A routine, repeated consistently, turns effort into habit. And once something is habit, it requires less willpower to maintain. Time management is critical too. Without intentional planning, your days vanish into trivial tasks. But when you block out time for what matters, when you decide in advance that this hour belongs to your health, your growth, or your creative work, you protect your priorities. Tools like calendars, to-do lists, or digital reminders are not cages. They are guardrails, keeping you on track when distractions pull. Yet discipline does not mean rigidity. Life will test your plans with unexpected events, setbacks, or detours. True discipline is flexible. It adapts without breaking. If you miss a workout, you do not spiral into guilt. You adjust and return tomorrow. If a project takes longer than expected, you reframe your schedule without abandoning the goal. Discipline is persistence, not perfection. One of the greatest challenges to discipline is instant gratification. We live in a world of immediate rewards, notifications, entertainment, fast food. But discipline teaches you the art of delayed gratification, the wisdom of choosing what serves your long-term growth over what soothes your short-term craving. Each time you resist the quick fix and choose the deeper reward, you strengthen your resilience. Over time, your mind learns that the satisfaction of consistency outweighs the fleeting high of impulse. Accountability can also magnify discipline. When you share your goals with someone you trust, you create an added layer of responsibility, knowing that someone will ask. Did you follow through? Often gives you the push you need on difficult days. But accountability is not only external, it can be internal. Journaling your progress, checking off completed tasks, or reflecting on your daily wins creates a feedback loop that keeps you engaged. Resilience and discipline go hand in hand. Discipline will sometimes feel uncomfortable, even painful. You will wake up tired, tempted to skip commitments. You will face setbacks that tempt you to quit. But every time you push through discomfort, you expand your capacity. Just as muscles grow stronger when challenged, your discipline grows sharper when tested. You discover that doing the hard thing builds a strength that spills into every area of your life. Celebrating progress is essential. Too often, people think discipline means denying themselves joy until they reach the finish line. But true discipline includes acknowledging the journey. When you celebrate small wins, you reinforce your commitment. Each celebration is a reminder that effort matters. This balance, persistence paired with appreciation, keeps discipline from becoming drudgery. Visualization also supports discipline. Imagine yourself following through, sticking to your commitments, overcoming distractions. See yourself rising early, writing the words, finishing the run. The more vividly you picture disciplined action, the more natural it feels to embody it. Pair these visualizations with affirmations. I am consistent. I keep my promises. I am capable of building habits that align with my dreams. Over time, these messages sink into your subconscious, guiding your behavior. Self-forgiveness is equally important. Discipline is a journey, not a straight line. You will stumble, miss days, or fall short. But what matters is not the stumble. It is your ability to return. If you punish yourself harshly for every slip, you risk abandoning the path altogether. Instead, forgive, learn, and recommit. Each return strengthens your discipline, proving that you are not defined by setbacks, but by persistence. Think of discipline as the invisible thread weaving your life together. Without it, your days unravel into scattered fragments. With it, your days form a tapestry of progress. Each thread may seem small, but over time, the picture reveals itself. A life built with intention, consistency, and purpose. So when you feel tired, when distractions call, when the easy way tempts you, pause and remind yourself, discipline is my freedom. Discipline is my strength. Discipline is the path that carries me to the life I envision. Then take the step, however small, and trust that each step matters, because it does. You have learned to anchor your vision with discipline. But there is another force quietly shaping your mindset every day: your environment. It is often said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Yet your surroundings reach far beyond just people. The spaces where you live and work, the sounds you hear, the energy you absorb, the digital content you consume, all of these elements create an atmosphere that either nurtures your growth or drains it. Mastering your mindset is not only about what happens inside you, it is also about the world you choose to build around you. Consider this: a seed can only grow in the soil that supports it. A strong oak will never flourish in barren sand, no matter how much potential lies within its acorn. In the same way, your thoughts and actions are shaped by the soil of your environment. If you surround yourself with encouragement, order, and inspiration, your mindset strengthens. If you surround yourself with negativity, chaos, or constant distraction, your mindset withers. People are the most powerful aspect of your environment. Every conversation, leaves an imprint. Some people lift you, reminding you of your potential, cheering for your growth. Others drain you, filling your mind with doubt, criticism, or small thinking. Without awareness, you may carry their energy as though it were your own. But once you begin to notice, you can make conscious choices. You don't need to cut everyone out of your life, but you can set boundaries with those who pull you down and invest more deeply in relationships that elevate you. Relationships that support your growth are like mirrors reflecting your highest self back to you. When you forget your strength, they remind you. When you falter, they encourage you. When you succeed, they celebrate genuinely. Surround yourself with these mirrors, and you will see yourself more clearly. Your physical environment matters too. A cluttered desk breeds a cluttered mind. A noisy, chaotic space makes it harder to focus and stay calm. On the other hand, a clean, organized, and inspiring space can act like fuel for your productivity and peace of mind. Imagine walking into a room where sunlight pours in, where everything has its place, where a vision board reminds you of your goals. Such a space tells your subconscious, this is a place where growth happens. It becomes easier to think clearly, to create, and to act with intention. The digital world is another layer of environment many people overlook. Every time you scroll through social media, watch videos, or read articles, you are feeding your mind. The question is, what are you feeding it? If your feeds are filled with drama, gossip, or negativity, your thoughts will echo those tones. But if you curate your digital environment with uplifting content, educational resources, and inspiring voices, your mind reflects that instead, you cannot escape the influence of your digital diet, but you can choose what to consume. Energy is contagious. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt heavy tension without anyone speaking? Or entered a space filled with laughter and instantly felt lighter? That is the energy of the environment at work. Pay attention to the energy you allow around you. Seek out spaces that feel alive, peaceful, or motivating, and minimize time in environments that consistently drain you. Routines and rituals also form part of your environment. They create structure that supports your mindset. A morning routine of meditation, journaling, or stretching sets the tone for your day. An evening ritual of reflection or gratitude primes your mind for rest. These patterns become part of your environment, internal landscapes that shape how you respond to the external world. You also have the power to design a personal growth environment. This means filling your life with resources that expand you: books, podcasts, courses, mentors. When you surround yourself with voices that challenge you to think bigger and push further, you create fertile soil for transformation. Growth does not happen by accident. It happens when you intentionally choose what you expose yourself to. Nature itself is a powerful environment for mindset mastery. Stepping outside, breathing fresh air, walking beneath trees, listening to waves, these experiences calm your nervous system and restore mental clarity. Nature reminds you that you are part of something larger, that renewal is always possible. A short walk outdoors can reset your perspective more effectively than hours of worry indoors. Another overlooked part of environment is the symbolic cues you place around you. A photo of a loved one can remind you of your why. A quote on your wall can remind you of your resilience. A small object that symbolizes achievement can remind you that you are capable. These cues might seem simple, but they constantly send signals to your subconscious. reinforcing the mindset you want to cultivate. Take a moment to reflect. What is your current environment teaching you? Are the people around you inspiring or draining? Does your workspace energize you or suffocate you? Does your digital environment feed growth or fuel comparison and fear? Awareness is the first step. Once you see clearly, you can begin to redesign. You may not be able to change everything at once, but small shifts create powerful momentum. Clearing one drawer, setting one boundary, or curating one part of your digital feed can change the tone of your environment. Over time, those small adjustments add up to a space that supports your highest self. Ultimately, your environment is either an anchor holding you back or a wind lifting your sails. The choice is yours. When you take responsibility for shaping the spaces, relationships, and influences around you, you discover that your mindset strengthens almost effortlessly. You are no longer swimming upstream against negativity. You are flowing with a current designed for growth. So treat your environment as sacred. Choose it with the same care you would choose the soil for a garden. Because just like a seed, your potential can only thrive in the right conditions. And you have the power to create those conditions. One choice, one boundary, one space at a time. You have seen how your environment shapes the soil of your growth. Now let us turn inward again, to two practices that sharpen your inner landscape: mindfulness and mental clarity. These are not luxuries. In a world buzzing with distractions, they are survival skills, giving you the ability to quiet the noise, focus on what matters, and see yourself and your life with unclouded vision. Mindfulness is the art of presence. It means choosing to be here, in this exact moment, rather than lost in the past or racing into the future. Mental clarity is the result of that practice, a mind that is calm, focused, and capable of seeing reality without distortion. Together, mindfulness and clarity form the foundation of wise decision-making and emotional stability. Think about how much of your daily life is spent on autopilot. You eat without tasting, scroll without noticing, drive without remembering the route. Your body is present, but your mind is elsewhere. Autopilot can be useful for small tasks, but when it dominates your life, you lose touch with what you feel, what you think, and what you want. Mindfulness breaks that cycle. It calls you back to awareness. A simple practice is mindful breathing. You close your eyes. Notice the inhale and exhale. Feel the air moving in your chest. Your mind will wander, but each time you gently return to the breath, you are training your attention. This practice, repeated daily, builds the muscle of focus. Over time, you carry this awareness into your everyday life, noticing the texture of food, the tone of a friend's voice, the emotion rising in your chest before you act. Meditation deepens mindfulness. It is not about emptying the mind. It is about watching the mind. Thoughts drift in, memories, worries, to-do lists, and instead of clinging or fighting them, you simply observe. They pass like clouds across the sky. This practice teaches you that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. That distance creates freedom. Instead of reacting impulsively, you choose with clarity. Mental clarity is like cleaning a foggy window. When the glass is smeared with doubt, stress, or distraction, you cannot see the world as it truly is. But when you wipe it clean through mindfulness, everything sharpens. Decisions become easier. Emotions feel less overwhelming. You can discern what matters and what does not. One tool for clarity is journaling. When you put pen to paper, You give shape to the swirl of thoughts inside you. Writing helps you see patterns, recurring worries, repeated frustrations, hidden desires. Over time, journaling becomes a mirror, showing you the landscape of your mind. This mirror allows you to declutter, to process emotions, and to release what no longer serves you. Another tool is digital detox. Constant notifications scatter your focus. Every ping drags your attention outward, leaving your mind fragmented. Clarity cannot thrive in constant interruption. Setting boundaries, turning off notifications, scheduling screen-free hours, or stepping away from social media restores your ability to concentrate. Silence becomes fertile ground for focus. Mindful movement practices also support clarity. Yoga, Tai Chi, even a slow walk in nature combine physical movement with intentional awareness. You focus on your body, your breath, your surroundings. This union of mind and body calms anxiety, grounds your energy, and sharpens your awareness. Gratitude strengthens mindfulness as well. When you pause to notice what you appreciate, the warmth of sunlight, the laughter of a loved one, the taste of your meal, you anchor yourself in the present moment. Gratitude is mindfulness in action. It interrupts worry about the future or regret about the past, and reminds you of the richness available right now. Listening with presence is another practice. Too often, conversations are half-lived. You hear words but plan your response, or your attention drifts elsewhere. Mindful listening means giving full attention, noticing not only the words but the tone, the pauses, the emotion beneath. This deepens your connection with others and with yourself. Mindfulness also involves acceptance. You stop fighting reality as it is, and instead, meet it with clarity. This does not mean passivity. It means seeing clearly before acting. When you accept that you feel anger, sadness, or stress, you can work with those emotions rather than against them. Acceptance clears the fog of denial, allowing true clarity to emerge. Your physical environment can support mindfulness too. A clean, quiet, light-filled space invites calm. Small rituals, lighting a candle, sipping tea slowly, pausing before a meal, become anchors that pull you back into awareness. By intentionally designing your surroundings, you reinforce the inner clarity you seek. Remember, mindfulness is not about adding time-consuming rituals. It is about transforming how you experience what you are already doing. Washing dishes becomes a chance to feel the warmth of water. Driving becomes an opportunity to notice the rhythm of breath. Walking becomes a meditation on each step. Every moment holds the possibility of mindfulness if you are willing to notice it. Clarity and mindfulness are not permanent states. They ebb and flow. There will be days when your mind feels scattered, when focus is hard, when distractions win. That is not failure, it is practice. Each return to awareness strengthens you. Over time, those moments of presence lengthen, and your mind grows steadier. The gift of mindfulness and clarity is freedom. Freedom from racing thoughts. Freedom from unconscious patterns. Freedom to choose your response instead of reacting blindly. In that freedom lies peace. And in that peace lies power. The power to direct your life with intention, to see yourself clearly, and to step into each moment awake and alive. You have tasted the quiet strength of mindfulness and the clean vision of mental clarity. Now let us bring that awareness into the way you move through life's challenges. The shift from reaction to response. This distinction may sound subtle, but it holds the power to transform your relationships, your choices, and your inner peace. A reaction is quick, automatic, and often fueled by emotion. Someone criticizes you, and you snap back defensively. A project fails, and you spiral into anger or despair. Reactions are like reflexes. They happen before you have a chance to think. While reflexes save us from physical harm, emotional reactions often create regret. A response, in contrast, is deliberate. It is the pause between the stimulus and your action. It is the moment where you breathe, step back, and choose. Responses are rooted in awareness rather than impulse. They align with your values, your goals, and your higher self. Where reactions are driven by old patterns, responses are guided by present intention. Imagine two drivers on the road. One gets cut off in traffic and immediately honks, yells, and carries that anger all day. Another takes a breath, notes the surge of frustration, and chooses to let it pass. The first reacts, the second responds. Both experienced the same event, but their days unfold in radically different directions. The power to respond rather than react begins with awareness of your triggers. Notice the situations that spark strong emotions in you. Is it criticism? Is it being ignored? Is it uncertainty? These triggers are not flaws. They are invitations. Each one points to a place where you can grow. By naming your triggers, you shine a light on patterns that previously controlled you in the dark. The practice of pausing is your most powerful tool. In heated moments, even a single deep breath can create space between the stimulus and your action. That space is where choice lives. Without it, you are a puppet of your emotions. With it, you are the author of your behavior. Pausing is not weakness, it is mastery. Breathing techniques strengthen this pause. When anger flares or anxiety spikes, your body floods with stress hormones. Slow, deep breathing signals to your nervous system that you are safe. It lowers your heart rate and steadies your mind. Once calm, you can choose how to respond instead of letting adrenaline decide for you. Mindfulness meditation, practiced regularly, rewires your brain for responsiveness. By watching thoughts and feelings without judgment, you train yourself to observe impulses without acting on them. Over time, this creates a mental buffer. Instead of being swept away by every emotion, you learn to notice it, name it, and then decide what to do. Reframing is another skill. Suppose someone criticizes you. A reactive mind thinks, "They are attacking me," and lashes out. A responsive mind asks, "Is there truth in this feedback? If not, can I let it go?" By reframing, you shift from defensiveness to curiosity, from conflict to growth. Empathy also transforms reactions into responses. When someone lashes out, it is tempting to mirror their anger. But if you pause and imagine their perspective, you often see pain beneath the surface. Empathy does not excuse bad behavior, but it softens your heart and guides you to respond with compassion rather than escalation. Setting intentions can guide your responses too. Before entering a conversation, remind yourself, "I intend to stay calm," or "I intend to listen fully." These intentions act as anchors, helping you stay aligned with your values even when emotions rise. Patience is another ally. Reactions are fast. Responses take time. When you delay action, even briefly, you give yourself room to think. You may realize that sending an angry message immediately is unwise, or that waiting a day gives you clearer perspective. Patience turns temporary emotion into lasting wisdom. Emotional intelligence underpins this entire process. It is the ability to recognize your emotions, regulate them, and understand those of others. The more emotionally intelligent you become, the easier it is to pause, to choose, and to act in ways that serve your goals rather than sabotage them. Criticism provides a powerful arena to practice this skill. Most people react defensively when criticized, seeing it as a personal attack. But when you respond thoughtfully, you gain a tool for growth. You separate useful feedback from noise. Thank the person if appropriate, and integrate the lesson without letting it shatter your confidence. Self-compassion matters here as well. You will not always respond perfectly. Sometimes you will snap, regret, or fall into old patterns. But rather than judging yourself harshly, remind yourself, this is practice. I am learning. Each slip is an opportunity to notice, reflect, and improve. Growth is not linear. It is iterative. Remember, the shift from reaction to response is not about suppressing emotion. It is about channeling emotion wisely. Anger can become assertiveness. Fear can become caution. Sadness can become empathy. When you respond, you harness the energy of your feelings and direct it toward constructive action. Imagine your life if you responded rather than reacted in most situations. Arguments would soften into conversations. Failures would turn into lessons. Stress would become fuel for clarity. You would live less at the mercy of circumstance and more as the creator of your path. That is the gift of responsiveness. It gives you back your power, the power to choose, to align, to act with intention. And each time you practice, you strengthen this muscle. Over time, responding becomes your default, and your life reflects the wisdom of your choices rather than the chaos of your reactions. You have discovered the pause that allows you to respond instead of reacting. Now you step into an even deeper freedom, the art of letting go. Letting go is one of the hardest skills to master, but also one of the most liberating. It means releasing the heavy grip of the past, loosening your attachment to outcomes, and accepting that you cannot control everything. Far from weakness, letting go is a profound strength. It opens space in your heart and mind for peace, creativity, and new beginnings. Consider how much weight you carry when you hold on to old grudges, regrets, or unmet expectations. It is like walking through life with a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents something you refuse to release: a past mistake, an argument, a disappointment. Over time, the weight becomes exhausting. Yet the moment you decide to set the backpack down, you feel light again. Letting go is not about forgetting or pretending. It is about choosing not to carry the weight any longer. The first step is acceptance. Many people resist reality, wishing things were different. They replay conversations, rewrite endings in their mind, or cling to what could have been. Acceptance says, "This is what happened. I cannot change the past, but I can choose how to live now." Acceptance is not resignation, it is clarity. Only by seeing the present moment clearly can you decide your next step with wisdom. Forgiveness is a central part of letting go. Forgiving someone does not mean excusing their behavior. It means refusing to let their actions continue to poison your heart. Holding on to anger hurts you more than the other person. Forgiveness releases that poison. It is an act of self-compassion. And forgiveness is not only for others, it is for yourself too. You may be carrying guilt for mistakes you made, ways you fell short, or times you hurt someone unintentionally. Forgiving yourself allows you to stop punishing yourself and start learning, growing, and moving forward. Another layer of letting go is releasing the need for control. Much of human stress comes from trying to control the uncontrollable, people's opinions, the future, or external events. But life is unpredictable. The more you grasp, the more frustrated you become. Letting go of control does not mean giving up. It means focusing on what you can control: your actions, your attitude, your mindset. You influence your path, but you do not need to micromanage the entire universe. When you release that burden, you feel lighter. Detachment from outcomes is equally powerful. Often, people tie their happiness to a specific result. I will be happy if I get this job. I will be fulfilled if this relationship works out. But when things do not unfold as planned, despair follows. Detachment means giving your best effort while releasing your grip on the result. You still care, but you do not hinge your worth on the outcome. This frees you to act with courage, because failure no longer defines you. It simply redirects you. Mindfulness supports letting go. When you stay in the present moment, regrets about the past and worries about the future lose their grip. You begin to notice the beauty and possibility in front of you. A mindful breath, a quiet walk, a moment of laughter, all become reminders that life unfolds here and now. Visualization can help too. Imagine placing your fears or regrets on leaves floating down a river. Watch them drift away, carried by the current. See them growing smaller and smaller until they disappear. This symbolic release sends a powerful message to your subconscious. I am ready to move forward. Relationships also require letting go. Sometimes we cling to connections that no longer serve us because we fear change or loneliness. But holding on to toxic dynamics only drains you. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about yourself to create space for healthier bonds. By releasing what is harmful, you open room for what is nourishing. Regret is another heavy chain. You replay what you should have said, the path you should have taken, the risks you should have dared. But regret cannot rewrite the past. Its only gift is insight. Letting go of regret means asking, what lesson can I carry forward? Then you release the rest. Every mistake has shaped you, taught you, and prepared you for the next chapter. Perfectionism is yet another weight. You cling to impossible standards, believing that only flawless action makes you worthy. Letting go here means embracing imperfection. Growth comes from trying, stumbling, and learning. Progress matters more than perfection. When you let go of the need to be flawless, you free yourself to be authentic, creative, and bold. Gratitude eases the process. When you shift focus from what you lost to what you still have, the grip of disappointment loosens. Gratitude says, even if this didn't go as planned, I still have blessings to count, lessons to learn, and opportunities to embrace. Gratitude transforms letting go from loss into liberation. The practice of letting go is ongoing. It is not a one-time event. Each day you may need to release something, a frustration, a fear, an expectation. Each release is an act of strength. Over time, you become lighter, freer, more resilient. You realize that life is not about clinging tightly, but about flowing gracefully. Letting go does not mean losing. It means making room. When you release what no longer serves you, you create space for new opportunities, deeper peace, and genuine joy. Imagine your life with fewer burdens, more clarity, more openness, more energy. That is the promise of letting go. So breathe deeply. Name the weight you have been carrying. Decide which burdens are ready to be set down. And as you release them, remind yourself, letting go is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter, lighter and more expansive than before. You have lightened the load through the art of letting go. And in that new spaciousness comes another essential mastery: your emotions. Emotions are not enemies. They are signals, guiding you to pay attention, to learn, to act. But when they control you, they can hijack your choices, damage your relationships, and cloud your vision. Mastering your emotions does not mean silencing them or pretending they don't exist. It means understanding them, honoring them, and channeling them with wisdom. Think of emotions like waves. Some days the sea is calm. Other days, waves rise high and crash hard. If you try to fight the waves, you exhaust yourself. If you ignore them, you risk being swept under. But if you learn to ride them, aware of their power, skillfully balanced, you move with grace across the water. That is what emotional mastery looks like. Not control through force, but balance through awareness. The first step is acknowledgement. Too often, people suppress emotions, believing it makes them strong. They say, "I'm fine," when they are not. But buried emotions do not vanish. They resurface in stress, illness, or misplaced anger. Mastery begins with honesty, naming what you feel. I am sad. I am anxious. I am excited. Naming brings clarity. Once an emotion is identified, it becomes something you can work with instead of something that works against you. Understanding the root of your emotions comes next. Anger, for example, often masks deeper feelings, hurt, fear, or a sense of powerlessness. Anxiety may hide a desire for certainty. Sadness may point to unmet needs or unresolved grief. By asking yourself, what is underneath this feeling? You discover the real message your emotions are sending. Emotional regulation is the practice of responding wisely rather than reacting impulsively. Simple techniques like deep breathing, counting to 10, or stepping away from a heated situation give your nervous system time to settle. Once calm, you can respond in alignment with your values instead of being swept away by impulse. Regulation is not suppression, it is guidance, like a steady hand on the wheel during a storm. Mindfulness is invaluable here. By observing your emotions as they arise, without judgment, you create space between the feeling and the action. You notice anger rising, but you don't have to lash out. You notice fear bubbling, but you don't have to retreat. That space is freedom. It allows you to choose how to express your emotions constructively. Reframing is another powerful tool. Instead of seeing failure as defeat, you can reframe it as a lesson. Instead of interpreting criticism as an attack, you can see it as feedback. Reframing does not erase emotion, it transforms its energy. Anger becomes assertiveness, fear becomes caution, sadness becomes empathy. This alchemy is at the heart of emotional mastery. Self-compassion softens the process. You will not regulate perfectly every time. You will snap, overreact, or misinterpret. Instead of beating yourself up, treat yourself with kindness. I am learning. I can try again. This gentleness reduces shame and builds resilience. It teaches you that growth is not about perfection, but persistence. Boundaries also protect your emotional health. Without them, you may absorb other people's chaos, feeling responsible for their moods. Setting clear boundaries, saying no when needed, limiting exposure to toxic energy, preserves your balance. Boundaries are not walls, They are gates, allowing love and connection in while keeping harm out. Empathy deepens emotional intelligence. When you attune to others' feelings, you build stronger relationships and diffuse conflict. Instead of reacting defensively, you can ask, what might they be experiencing? Empathy transforms tension into understanding and isolation into connection. Journaling provides a safe outlet. Writing down your emotions helps you process them, identify patterns, and release intensity. Over time, journaling becomes a map of your emotional landscape. You begin to see which situations trigger certain feelings, which coping strategies help, and how you have grown. Physical activity also supports emotional mastery. Movement releases endorphins, reduces stress, and channels emotional energy constructively, whether it is running, dancing, or yoga. Physical expression often clears emotions that words cannot. Visualization strengthens this process. Picture yourself handling a challenge with calm. Imagine staying steady in an argument, grounded in your values. Mental rehearsal prepares your mind to respond as you desire, making it easier when real situations arise. Gratitude balances emotions too. When you focus on what is good and abundant, negative emotions lose their grip. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it adds perspective, reminding you that joy and struggle can coexist. Over time, emotional mastery becomes second nature. You still feel deeply, perhaps even more deeply, but you no longer drown in those feelings. You ride the waves, guided by awareness, compassion, and clarity. Picture yourself living this way. Stress arises, but you breathe and choose calm. Someone criticizes you, and instead of reacting with hurt, you listen with curiosity. Fear whispers, but instead of freezing, you step forward anyway. That is the power of mastering your emotions. When you gain this mastery, you don't just improve your inner world, you transform your outer world. Your relationships deepen, your choices sharpen, your presence becomes magnetic. People trust those who are steady, compassionate, and wise. And that is who you become when you learn to guide your emotions instead of being ruled by them. So remind yourself, emotions are teachers, not tyrants. They are signals, not shackles. By listening, understanding, and guiding them, you claim one of the greatest powers available to you, the power to live with balance, clarity, and strength. You have begun to guide your emotions with clarity and wisdom. Now it is time to focus that energy into the future you want to create. Visualization and goal setting are two tools that transform dreams into reality. One gives you the vision, the other gives you the roadmap. Together, they form the compass that keeps you aligned with your purpose and moving toward it with confidence. Visualization is the practice of imagining your desired future with such detail and feeling that your mind begins to believe it is possible, even inevitable. Neuroscience shows that when you vividly picture yourself performing an action, your brain activates the same pathways as if you were actually doing it. Athletes rehearse races in their minds. Entrepreneurs envision deals before they close them, and creators see their finished projects long before they begin. This mental rehearsal prepares your body and mind for success. Think of visualization as planting seeds in the subconscious. The more often you water those seeds with images, feelings, and repetition, the more they grow. You begin to notice opportunities you once overlooked. You feel more motivated to take the next step. Your mind shifts from someday to already becoming. To visualize effectively, immerse yourself in the experience. Do not just see the goal, feel it. If your dream is to run a marathon, picture the sunrise on race day, the rhythm of your breath, the roar of the crowd as you cross the finish line. Engage all senses, the sound of your footsteps, the taste of water at mile 20, the surge of joy in your chest. The richer the image, the more powerfully it imprints on your subconscious. A vision board can amplify this practice. By collecting images, words, and symbols that represent your goals, you create a physical reminder of what you are working toward. Place it where you will see it daily, and each glance will reignite your motivation. It is not just decoration, it is a declaration. But visualization without action is only daydreaming. This is where goal setting comes in. Goals translate vision into steps. They make the abstract concrete. When you set a goal, you give your mind direction and your actions purpose. The most effective goals follow the SMART framework: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Be healthier is vague. Exercise for 30 minutes, 5 times a week, is specific and measurable. Write a book someday is a wish. Write 500 words daily for 6 months is a plan. SMART goals break mountains into stepping stones, making them less overwhelming and more achievable. Write your goals down. Research shows that written goals are significantly more likely to be achieved than unwritten ones. Writing crystallizes intention. It transforms thoughts into commitments. Post your goals where you can see them often, on your desk, your mirror, or inside your journal. Each time you see them, you remind yourself of your direction. Break big goals into smaller milestones. A long-term dream can feel daunting, but when you divide it into short-term actions, you create momentum. Each milestone achieved fuels your confidence and proves to you that progress is possible. Step by step, what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Accountability strengthens this process. Share your goals with someone you trust, a friend, mentor, or group, knowing that someone else will ask, "How is it going?" pushes you to stay consistent. Accountability does not replace discipline, but it reinforces it, especially on days when motivation is low. Flexibility is essential too. Life is unpredictable. A rigid plan can collapse under unexpected challenges, but a flexible plan bends without breaking. If one path closes, you find another. Flexibility ensures that setbacks become detours rather than dead ends. Celebrate progress along the way. Too often, people delay joy until the final achievement. But celebrating small victories keeps you motivated and makes the journey enjoyable. Each celebration reinforces your belief that you are capable, that you are moving forward, and that the process itself is worth honoring. Visualization and goal setting also guard against fear and self-doubt. When your mind paints a vivid picture of success, it weakens the hold of limiting beliefs. The image of your future becomes stronger than the voice of your doubts. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and begin asking, "What if I succeed?" Daily practice is key. Spend a few minutes each morning visualizing your goals as already achieved. Then review your written goals and plan one concrete step for the day. This ritual trains your mind to expect success and directs your energy toward making it real. Think of your vision and goals as a compass. Without them, you drift, swayed by circumstance. With them, you move intentionally, even when storms come. You may not control the wind, but you adjust your sails, guided always by your inner direction. When you combine visualization with structured goals, you create a powerful synergy. Visualization fuels your belief. Goals channel that belief into action. Together, they ensure that your dreams are not left to chance, but are pursued with clarity, persistence, and faith. So close your eyes and picture the life you desire. Write down the steps that will carry you there. Commit to them daily, celebrate your progress, and stay flexible along the way. With vision in your heart and goals in your hand, you are not just dreaming, you are building. You have envisioned your future and mapped it with goals. The final piece of mindset mastery is embracing a growth mindset. This is the perspective that your abilities, intelligence, and potential are not fixed. They can expand with effort, learning, and perseverance. When you live with a growth mindset, you stop seeing failure as proof of limitation and begin to see it as fuel for progress. You stop measuring yourself against perfection and start celebrating your evolution. A fixed mindset whispers, "This is who you are, and you cannot change." A growth mindset declares, "This is who you are now, and you can become more." That difference changes everything. Imagine a child learning to walk. They stumble, fall, and rise again without shame. No one tells them they will never walk because they fell. Yet as adults, many lose this natural resilience, interpreting mistakes as signs to stop trying. A growth mindset restores that childlike determination. Falling is part of moving forward. One way to cultivate a growth mindset is by reframing challenges. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," add the word "yet." "I can't do this yet" opens the door to possibility. It acknowledges your current limits while affirming your ability to expand them. This single word shifts defeat into determination. Embracing effort is another key. In a fixed mindset, effort feels like evidence of inadequacy. If I were talented, this would be easy. In a growth mindset, effort is the path to mastery. Muscles strengthen through resistance. Minds sharpen through challenge. Every ounce of effort is proof of your commitment and a step toward success. Feedback also takes on new meaning. In a fixed mindset, criticism feels like attack. In a growth mindset, feedback is information. It may sting, but it is useful fuel for improvement. You learn to separate your worth from your performance, realizing that input helps you refine rather than defines you. Comparison often traps people in fixed thinking, measuring themselves against others and concluding they fall short. A growth mindset frees you from this trap. Instead of envy, you see inspiration. Someone else's success proves what is possible, not what you lack. You shift from comparison to collaboration, recognizing that growth is not a zero-sum game. Curiosity fuels this perspective as well. A growth mindset asks, "What can I learn here?" rather than, "What does this say about me?" With curiosity, every situation becomes a classroom, every setback a lesson, every person a teacher. This mindset keeps you humble, open, and eager to evolve. Neuroscience supports this truth. Studies of neuroplasticity reveal that the brain can form new connections, adapt, and grow throughout life. Intelligence is not static, it is flexible. Your brain rewires itself in response to learning, practice, and persistence. Every time you challenge yourself, you are literally reshaping your brain for growth. Self-talk plays a powerful role. Words shape beliefs. When you repeat affirmations like, "I can learn," "I am capable," or "I grow stronger each day," you program your mind to expect progress. Over time, These beliefs translate into action. You take more risks, recover from setbacks faster, and pursue opportunities with greater courage. Resilience is both a product and a driver of growth mindset. You expect obstacles and see them as temporary, not terminal. You bounce back not because you never fall, but because you believe falling is part of learning. This resilience turns life's difficulties into stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Adopting a growth mindset requires patience. Change is not instant. You may catch yourself slipping into fixed patterns, doubting your ability, fearing failure, resisting feedback. That is not failure. It is awareness. Each time you notice, you have an opportunity to choose differently. Growth happens not in giant leaps, but in consistent small choices. Gratitude supports this journey. By appreciating progress, instead of demanding perfection, you reinforce your growth. You celebrate effort, persistence, and lessons learned. Gratitude keeps you focused on how far you have come, rather than how far you have to go. Living with a growth mindset transforms more than just achievement. It deepens joy. You no longer fear challenges. You welcome them. You no longer dread mistakes. You mine them for wisdom. You no longer shrink from effort. You embrace it as evidence of your strength. Every day becomes an opportunity to stretch, to learn, to become. Now picture yourself embodying this mindset fully. A door closes, and instead of despair, you say, "What new path can I create?" A failure arrives, and instead of shame, you ask, "What did I gain from this?" An opportunity feels daunting, and instead of retreat, you declare, "I can grow into this." This is the freedom of a growth mindset. It allows you to meet life with courage, openness, and hope. When you embrace growth, you are never stuck. You are always becoming. That is the ultimate mastery of your mindset. The ability to keep evolving, no matter where you start, no matter what you face. Now breathe. Slow the pace of your thoughts. Feel the journey you have just walked. The awareness, the beliefs, the resilience, the clarity, the discipline, and finally, the growth. Each step has built upon the last, layer by layer, creating a foundation strong enough to carry you forward into the life you desire. You began by learning that your life reflects your thoughts. You saw how shifting your mindset changes the lens through which you see the world. You learned the power of self-awareness, the necessity of releasing limiting beliefs, and the science of positive thinking that strengthens your brain. You discovered resilience, the courage to let go of fear, the richness of abundance, and the discipline that turns dreams into reality. You shaped your environment, cultivated mindfulness, learned to respond instead of react, and released the burdens of the past. You gained mastery over your emotions, sharpened your vision with goals, and embraced the expansive perspective of growth. This is not just knowledge, it is practice. Each insight is a tool you can carry with you. Each exercise is a habit you can return to. Each truth is a reminder that you are capable of transformation. So, as you step into tomorrow, remind yourself, you are not fixed. You are fluid. You are not limited. You are expansive. You are not trapped. You are free. The life you deserve is not waiting somewhere distant. It begins here, in the choices you make, in the thoughts you nurture, in the mindset you master. The journey does not end here. It continues every day, with every thought, with every action. You hold the power. You always have. And now, you know how to use it.